Hello all and welcome to Chalk Talk, your source for Ohio State varsity athletics, news, updates, and analysis. I'm your host, Kaylee Rentz, coming to you from the Lantern TV studios in Columbus, Ohio. I'm joined by resident Buckeye sports analyst, senior Lantern reporter Andrew Todd Smith, and Lantern TV assistant sports director Aaron Yerian. Gentlemen, welcome. Several of Ohio State's varsity teams that play in the fall started their season this weekend, but a big news headline broke on Thursday in which Ohio State and Notre Dame will be playing each other on the gridiron in 2022 and 2023. Guys, could you elaborate on what this means for Buckeye football?
Absolutely. This is a huge bit of news. A lot of people don't know. Athletic Director Gene Smith, Notre Dame alum, member of the 1973 National Championship team. So, of course, he wants to play at the alma mater. Yeah, 2022, Aaron in Columbus. And
get your tickets now, kids. we'll have highlights in 8 years.
They'll be playing in South Bend in 2023.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a huge home-and-home exchange. You know, you've got the Big Ten. They're going to be expanding to 9 games a season, so these non-conference matchups
are huge. They're
big.
Exactly. They're big for both.
They're marquee, and this game is, if I may be so bold to venture to say, it will probably be prime time.
Title implications on the line?
Very possible. If Kelly and Meyer are still in place, this is going to be big.
Bringing it back to the 2014 season, the Buckeyes took on the Navy Midshipmen in a 34-17 win. Can you guys evaluate the Buckeyes on the first game of their season?
So as Kaylee said, 34-17 Buckeye win over the Midshipmen.
That's right.
They handled the triple option attack pretty well.
Vaunted triple option.
The vaunted triple option attack. But we had some score predictions last week.
Yeah, we did. What did I win?
Oh, you didn't win anything because you were way off.
Oh, man. It was close the first half, though. 7-6 going into halftime. 7-6 going into halftime. I think I get something for that.
Absolutely. No, the defense came up big. The O-line, they improved in the second half. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But, yeah, what was your main takeaway from the game?
Main takeaway? Wow, the primary thing coming out of that game was redshirt freshman J.T. Barrett at the quarterback position. I mean, they came right out of the gate and they threw a pass. He hit senior wide receiver Devin Smith on a 14-yard pass for the opening drive. He also ran a little bit. I mean, he's obviously not Braxton Miller, but he's able to make the plays that matter instead of making a play from nothing.
Absolutely. I mean, he was very efficient in that game. I mean, he got thrown into the mix very late in this summer camp. He went 12 of 15 for 226 yards.
Yeah, but he did connect again with Devin Smith later in the game for an 80-yard touchdown.
That 80-yard touchdown was brilliant, yes. So it's good to see him go into, I wouldn't say a hostile environment because it was a neutral site matchup, but to see him really take the reins and manage that game, like you said.
Yeah, well, you said, hold on. You said that it was a neutral site matchup. I mean, it was practically across the river from the Naval Academy, but I mean, it was a sea of scarlet and gray.
It was indeed. So, I mean, he's going to have a different environment to deal with Virginia Tech this coming weekend. But
completely different look on defense against Virginia Tech. They run a 4-2-5 instead of
pro-style spread sort of hybrid. Yeah, Bud Foster, the defensive coordinator for Virginia Tech. We could talk a little bit about him. He's been with Frank Beamer, so the head coach of Virginia Tech, since 1981.
Wow, that's when I was
So they've got some chemistry together. Yeah, Frank Beamer was the head coach at Murray State, and Bud Foster played at Murray State and was a graduate assistant there.
So what you're saying is they already have all of their teamwork and chemistry. And
absolutely. They've been together in varying positions. Now, Frank Beamer, he's known for his Beamer ball. They've scored 134 non-offensive touchdowns at Virginia Tech since he took the helm in 1987. Bud Foster has been there for the entire journey. He's now the inside linebackers coach and the defensive coordinator. And Shane Beamer, Frank Beamer's son, also on the coaching staff.
Yeah,
yep, assistant head coach and running backs coach. Now,
what about their offensive coordinator though at Virginia Tech?
Loeffler?
Yes.
Yeah, no, they're a very dynamic team to have to defend. I mean, you've got Michael Brewer coming in, transfer from Texas Tech. Now, granted, they played FCS team William and Mary last week. I wasn't terribly impressed with their performance early, but they ended up pulling away 34-9. They allowed only 193 yards to the Tribe. So, but what we really need to focus on is how Ohio State is adjusting what they're facing. You talked about it. They handled the triple option pretty impressively.
But now, I mean, yeah, they handled the triple option pretty impressively. But now they're going up against a passing team.
Yes, absolutely. But you have Shy McKenzie.
If you look at the stats, though.
The true freshman running back is no slouch for Virginia Tech, though. He enrolled early. He showed up. He's already producing for them. So the takeaway is that Michael Brewer is going to be passing the ball. He's effective. You don't go to Texas Tech as a quarterback if you can't sling the ball.
Right.
So he's transferred. He's coming into the Hokies team. Now, another sort of interesting, storyline is that they have their tunnel in Blacksburg, Virginia.
That's right. We have a brand new tunnel.
Metallica's Enter Sandman, but the Buckeyes have a tunnel of their own to enter the game on Saturday night. Stadium lights, too.
That's right.
Don't forget.
It's first time ever they have their own lighting system installed at the stadium. Also, might see local star in the NBA, LeBron James, as well as maybe an alternate uniform against the Hokies.
It's very possible. Yeah, Coach Urban Meyer said he expects him to show up in terms of LeBron James. So going back to what JT Barrett is going to face in this Virginia Tech defense. Now, of course, we'll talk about special teams in a second, but you have Kendall Fuller and Brandon Faison at the cornerback position. Virginia Tech turns out NFL talent, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. They've had 18 players go to the NFL in the last 9 drafts since 2006. They know what they're doing. We talked about Foster implementing his scheme, beamer ball, scoring non-offensive touchdowns. Virginia Tech last season, 18th in the country in total defense. They gave up 333 yards a game, less than 5 yards per play. So what gives? You have Curtis Samuel and Jalen Marshall coming in at the H-back position, helping out Dontre Wilson, who, granted, got a lot of all-purpose yards because he helps in the return game.
Right.
But what are we going to expect from, you mentioned it last week, the stable of running backs. Clearly there's depth at that position, but if JT Barrett is forced to pass, those cornerbacks, arguably, maybe behind Florida State's tandem, probably the best in the ACC. So he's going to be tested if he's doing these outside fly streak routes to try and connect with Devin Smith. I guarantee you he's not going to be left wide open like he was on the play.
He may not be left wide open, but they may have to double team Devin Smith. Then that opens up your H-back position. Jalen Marshall could come out of the backfield, or Dontre Wilson could come out of the backfield, and you can run the wide receiver screen to the flats.
Or the sweep.
You can run the jet sweep.
The 9-yard and the 10-yard play back-to-back. And the O-line really improved. We had Coach Ed Werner talking after the game.
The first half we made some mistakes that didn't play as well as we would have liked. A lot of young guys, just some things happened, and then we settled in, and I thought we played really well in the second half and started to control the line of scrimmage better.
They came out, we knew they were inexperienced. We talked about it last week, but they really made some adjustments at halftime. I mean, they came out, and suddenly they started to kind of assert a presence in the running game. Ezekiel Elliott wasn't having trouble finding holes and going off tackle, and we talked about Marshall and Samuel. Rod Smith, I mean, he had a big game too, not only on the offensive side of the ball getting touches, but he talked about it on Wednesday at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Special teams has been part of his game. You know, he's been sort of a quiet contributor, but, I mean, he had the 11-second block. That was a key talking point for a lot of the media members.
He was asked about that, and his response was, well, I was told to go 4 to 6, and then everybody sort of joked about it. I mean, that's twice as long as 4 to 6.
You're doubling up, Rod. You're doubling up. We love the effort.
Way to go above and beyond.
But so now that we're talking about special teams, he's on the hands team, covering. Let's talk about Cameron Johnson.
Oh yes,
We mentioned
the thunder from down under.
The Madden corner drill. He made it happen. Devin Smith down the ball at the 1.
At the 1,
just pin the Navy offense back. You know, to make Navy have to ground and pound 99 yards. You know, that's an impressive special teams play that really allows your defense to kind of open up and play loose. Let's talk about linebackers. What did we see from Darren Lee, from Joshua Perry, from Curtis Grant, the captain? What do you have to say about that?
Darren Lee was by far behind JT Barrett. Darren Lee was most definitely the most impressive player that showed up to Baltimore on Saturday. I mean, he had an impressive 61-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown. He plays very heads up. He keeps the ball in front of him. He keeps his shoulders square and his feet in front of him, and then he just chases down the ball carrier and makes tackles. I mean, that you want to talk about an improved defense. That right there is the most improved aspect of the defense this year is tackling. There hasn't been that many, if any, that I remember seeing tackles where the offensive player was able to just shake the defender off and go for a bigger gain. And
another defensive strength of the Buckeye unit was Tyvis Powell. We talked about him last week, coming in from the strong safety position. He was talking about the cornerbacks being more aggressive, but he was aggressive too, wrapping players up, body tackling, making sure he's twisting them down to the turf. He really only missed one tackle that I can remember seeing.
And then even later on, he makes a big play where he chases down the defender. He was the last man of defense.
Trying to spike the ball out.
And in the post-game press conference, I talked to him and asked him about that play. He said that, well, one thing that Ohio State has is speed.
That was a great sort of representative play of this new sort of invigorated Buckeye defense, you know, bringing back the silver,
Von Bell Academy?
The Von Bell Academy, but the silver bullets. It's good to see them have that pop in their step. You had defensive end Joey Bosa comment about how it's good to see that they were able to respond to such a foreign scheme and defend against that triple option. And, I mean, we already talked about how they're going to have to adjust and get back to their sort of bread and butter, so to speak, against
and not only that, but Joey Bosa, I mean, Coach Myers said Joey Bosa didn't come here to stop the run. He's there to get in the backfield and put pressure on the quarterback.
To wrap around and pressure the quarterback.
So, I mean,
that's what Brewer's going to be facing.
So wrap it up. I mean, it's going to be quite a show come Saturday night, 8 p.m., Ohio Stadium, under the lights, fireworks, maybe LeBron James and some alternate jerseys.
You know, the first of several primetime matchups for the Buckeyes this season, the home opener. I mean, it's setting the tone early. They got a taste of the action in Baltimore, but it's going to be insane on Saturday night. They're expecting a record attendance.
Absolutely, especially with those stadium renovations.
Absolutely, expanded seating.
So what do you think, score-wise? We'll let you go first. You copied off me last time. You copied off me last time. That's why.
So I went 30-21 last week against Navy, 4 off on each one. So this week, I think the Buckeyes are really going to get tested. The special teams, Sean Nurnberger, we talked to him. He's been automatic so far. So, I mean, if he needs to come in and provide the difference, fine. I'm going to go 28-20.
Wow.
Ohio State over Virginia Tech.
Defensive battle.
Exactly. Lower scoring. But I don't think Virginia Tech is going to be intimidated by this environment. We talked about Lane Stadium in Blacksburg. They've been there. Frank Beamer has built this program from the ground up, and he'll have them ready. What do you think?
Oh, I think the Ohio State offense, they have legs under them right now. I think they continue powering forward. I think it's going to be a big day for JT Barrett and the H-backs. I'm looking at Ohio State at least puts up 45, but I also think at the same time, 45.
Okay.
I also think at the same time, Virginia Tech, they have a little bit of success too. It's not going to be as close as I thought the Navy game or predicted the Navy game to be. But, 40, it's 45, right? 45-28. I don't think JT Barrett throws for more than 300 yards, but I do think, young quarterback, he threw the interception at Navy, but that was less on him and more on the fact that the Navy player made such a great play on the ball.
Parrish Gaines beat him on that ball. But Barrett's decision-making in the pocket was impressive because he rolled out, he evaded the pressure, and then, granted, young player, redshirt freshman, he forced the play, but he was thinking. The key is that he's not panicking under pressure. So, 45-28, I'll hold you to it.
45-28.
Okay, fantastic. Gentlemen's agreement.
Well, that's all the time we have for football. Let's take a look at the other varsity athletics. Aaron, can you tell us a little bit about the women's volleyball team and their start to their season?
Women's volleyball opened their season in tournament play at the Oregon Invitational last Friday. The Buckeyes faced stiff competition against the host team Oregon Ducks, but fell in 3 sets with scores 25-22, 25-12, and 25-16. Sophomore middle blocker Taylor Sandbothy led the team in scoring with 13 points and added 9 kills while putting up 4 blocks and an ace, while junior libero Valeria Leon put forth a valiant effort with 11 digs in the opener. On Saturday, the Buckeyes continued to fight hard against Illinois State where they forced 5 sets, but ultimately fell to the Redbirds 16-14 in the final. Later that same day, they would return to action against Central Arkansas, where Leon averaged over 5 digs a set, and senior Aaron Seckinger led the charge with a dozen kills. Buckeyes would take it 3-1. In the end, Sam Bothy earned high marks, being named to the all-tournament team with 35 kills, 20 blocks, and 5 service aces. Women's volleyball takes the court later today at St. John Arena in the 9th annual Sports Imports DC Coal Classic. They'll face Auburn at 12:30 and Florida Gulf Coast tonight at 7:30 before finishing Sunday against Southern Illinois at 2 p.m. Florida Gulf Coast senior setter Gigi Meyer will be there, and we will too, so look forward to highlights coming up next week. Also in volleyball news, the men's team released their 2015 schedule. They'll open against McKendree University January 2nd and play 15 home matches here at St. John Arena.
It's a great recap, Aaron. So we got Auburn coming up today, and Florida Gulf Coast with Gigi Meyer, daughter of Urban Meyer, of course.
Got to be excited for a little homecoming action.
Yeah, daughter coming home. She's done the Mirror Lake jump.
She has.
So, I mean, she's part of the Buckeye community, but she'll be squaring off against the Buckeyes on Friday. It's good to see the women's volleyball team gaining some experience, even in losing efforts against Oregon, like you said. Tough Pac-12 team. We talked about it last week.
Yeah, in the preseason, Coach Jeff Carlson, he said that all the stiff competition is going to make his team better.
Yeah.
And the Big Ten play opens up with even tougher opponents, so it's good to get ramped up for that in order to go deep into the tournament, which is what he plans to do this year. And
you have to expect the seniors, leadership. We talked about Taylor Sandbothy. I mean, those are the players that are going to expect more of their underclassmen and turn those losses into learning opportunities. So anyway, we're going to transition to women's soccer with Kaylee.
So taking a look at women's soccer, they had a win-loss weekend in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, but the Lady Buckeyes were looking to have a home victory as they took on number 4 Virginia Tech. Coming off a weekend against 2 ranked teams, number 18 Duke and number 4 North Carolina, the Buckeyes are hoping their huge summer conditioning would help out in their 3rd game against a ranked opponent. Right from the get-go, Virginia Tech proved to be a tough team. Just coming off their 3rd straight shutout, led by goalie Caroline Kelly, against Akron, the Hokies showed no mercy to the Buckeyes. Virginia Tech's connections were flawless. The team worked as a unit that was tough to break down. The offense and defense worked with each other to create numerous offensive opportunities. The Hokies outshot the Buckeyes 19-8 in their 3-1 win, and they held possession for the majority of the game. The lone Buckeye goal was scored by Michaela Paradiso, assisted by Sammy Edwards in the 52nd minute of the game. On Tuesday, the Buckeyes faced off against in-state rival Toledo in a 1-0 loss in double overtime. The Buckeyes showed a lot of energy and proved once again that Lori Walker is a brilliant coach at conditioning a team. But the Buckeyes failed to produce quality chances and make adjustments to Toledo's very direct style of play. Coach Lori Walker said, "Our decision-making was poor. Toledo played to their strengths and found a way to win." The Buckeyes' best opportunity came from Sammy Edwards when she broke free and fired a shot, but Toledo goalkeeper Sammy Thompson made the save. So the main problem for the Buckeyes seemed to be consistent throughout the game, and that's that the ladies were not connecting between defense and midfield and forward. The team is generally pretty young, with freshmen and sophomores in the forward positions, and then Nikki Waltz as the freshman playing center mid. So you got to kind of wonder, it's going to take her some time to get ready for this entire thing, and she really has to learn to connect with her team. So what do you think about the juniors and seniors in the back?
Yeah, no, it's interesting that you put it that way, because they seem to be not skewed, but like their experience is towards the defensive side. So it's strange, given what Coach Lori Walker talked about last week, about the fact that she was satisfied with the improvements in 1v1 defending and in team defending. They have so much experience back there, and yet they're giving up 3 goals. Now, granted, we talked, they're the number 4 team in the country. I mean, let's not be too dissatisfied with that kind of showing. But yeah, the midfield, they're going to have to step up and really take possession of that middle third to kind of assert their dominance moving forward as the schedule progresses.
Exactly, and a little bit of the captain, Ellen Gruber, in our interview with her, she talked a little bit about how the through balls that the defense is sending the forwards is not going to work for this game. They have to make connections between the midfield and the forward, and she stressed that. So I think that Ellen Gruber, as captain, the only captain for the Ohio State women's soccer team, I think that's something that she's going to have to stress to her team in the next practices to come.
Sure, it'll be interesting to see, too, if they adjust and if they're able to, because you said the through ball, it's not working for them. But if they can get crosses in from the side to try and open up that young offense and, you know, kind of take the slack off that defense, because the upperclassmen, like we talked about, they're getting it done, but it's just not enough. They don't have the offensive punch that they need to, you know, stay even in some of these top-ranked matchups.
And you also have to remember that another key component for the Buckeyes is sophomore Nichelle Prince, who has been out of Ohio State's game so far due to a quad injury she received playing for Team Canada in the Under-20 Women's FIFA World Cup. In her freshman year, she was the second all Big Ten pick and played in all 20 matches, ranking 5th in the Big Ten with 32 points and number 1 for Ohio State with 13 goals and tied for 3rd with 6 assists. So she's a key component to the Buckeye offense. They're not able to generate a lot of offense without her. I don't know how the rest of the games are going to go unless Nichelle Prince gets in there.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, she seems to be the key component that they're really going to need to spark that offense. You know, one goal, again, number 4 team in the country. We're not holding it against them, but they're going to need something to kick in for that, you know, the midfield to feed it up. And like you said, Nichelle Prince is key to that process.
Now moving on to men's soccer. At the Wolstein Soccer Classic on Friday, the Buckeyes began their weekend facing UC Davis as their 2014 season opener. The Buckeyes outshot the Aggies 21-8, but they were unable to score against UC Davis goalie Chris Schultz. Even though the game resulted in a tie, Coach Bloom has confidence in his team. The Buckeyes defense was tremendous, headed by senior goalkeeper Alex Ivanoff in his first shutout of the season. The Buckeyes defended for the entire 110 minutes, which explains the 0-0 tie. UC Davis is a tough team, especially with Chris Schultz in the back of the net, who saw 21 shots, 3 of which were on goal. But I felt as though Ohio State was unable to break them down effectively. They made some changes to their lineup in the second half, adding Max Moeller, Yanni Saris, and Zach Doby to the lineup, but that didn't seem to change much for the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes saw some offensive quality chances with the skillful players like Liam Doyle and Kyle Culbertson, but they were unsuccessful in finishing. Other key players in the game were Christian Sato and Danny Jensen.
Good to see that they're making use of those substitutions. They're so valuable. We talked last week, unlimited substitutions in exhibition play. Not so now that the regular season's begun. So seeing guys like Yanni Saris and, I mean, Liam Doyle, we talked about him last week as well. Key contributor. The coach was so excited about his contributions coming into the midfield. You talked about Culbertson. It's great to see that they're making these adjustments and realizing what's working and what's not working, and, you know, having those be valuable and not just sort of shots in the dark of throwing fresh legs into the game. So it's, I like where Ohio State's going if they can continue to evaluate, adapt, overcome.
On Sunday afternoon, the Buckeyes took on Butler in a game that turned red. The game remained scoreless going into halftime, and just as the Buckeyes made adjustments to their lineup, junior Kyle Culbertson received a red card in the 64th minute of the game. The Buckeyes battled well down to 10 men and actually scored off a penalty kick from Danny Jensen, who fought his way to give OSU the advantage in the 65th minute. Senior Yanni Saris also scored the second goal for the Buckeyes when he rolled in a shot in front of the net off an Ohio State corner kick, granting the assist to senior Max Moeller in the 74th minute of the contest. The Bulldogs scored both their goals back-to-back in the 65th minute and 73rd minute. The two teams went 10-on-10 when Butler's Vincent Mitchell actually also picked up a red card in the 82nd minute.
So we got some disciplinary issues. Got Culbertson coming out for the Buckeyes. He was so distraught when he got flagged. You know, rough tackle. It's going to happen. Coach John Bloom was not happy either. Threw his hat. Threw his hat.
Right down there.
It's good to see them getting passionate, even, you know, if there's. It's clearly not malicious play, but it's good to see them respond and battle back. And obviously Butler got a red card too. So it was an interesting match to watch develop. You know, see how these teams sort of respond. And you said Butler scored back-to-back goals, and then you've got the PK. So again, interesting dynamic, but hopefully they'll be mentally settled down for their next matchup. Transition to cross country. What do you have for us?
Right, so Ohio State cross country. First off, both teams were victorious this past weekend when they ran in the Dayton Flyer 5K Challenge in Ketterington, Ohio. The men received second place while the women received first place. Now, scoring for cross country, not a lot of people know about it. So the scores are actually determined by summing the top 4 or 5 individual finishing places on each team. In the United States, the most common scoring system is the 7 runners and with the top 5 actually getting scored. So the points are awarded to the individual runners that are eligible to each team, and that equals the position in which they cross the finish line. So first place gets 1 point, second place gets 2 points, and so on. These points for the runners are summed, and the lowest score wins.
Well, that's good information to know moving forward. The season just got started, as you said, Kaylee. So how did they do at this Invitational, given that now we know how to interpret these numbers, those of us that have never been cross-country runners ourselves?
Right, well, the Ohio State men team scored a total of 34 points to give them second place, with the top 6 runners being Mitch Litch in 3rd, Clayton Bowie in 5th, Nick Ellsworth in 6th, Blake Taniff in 7th, and Kevin Blank in 14th. The men did very well against their competition, and they were only 6 points behind the winner of the meet, Louisville. Now, Andrew, can you tell us a little bit about the women's cross country?
The women's team, they were fantastic this weekend. They came in victorious at the Dayton Flyer 5K. With a total of just 19 points. We went over the scoring system, so pretty impressive. The top 6 runners for the Buckeyes were All-American Katie Borchers, who came in 1st, Minori Minagawa, not far behind her, in 2nd, Michelle Thomas in 4th, Tammy Berger in 5th, and Sakiko Minagawa in 6th. The women blew out their competition in the 2nd place team that was Louisville. They had a total score of 44 points. So Ohio State beating the 2nd place finisher by 25 points. Both teams have a week off, meaning both the women's and men's teams as they travel to the same place, but they're both competing next in the Bluegrass Invitational, September 13th in Lexington, Kentucky.
That's all the time we have for today. Be sure to catch the BNN Update on Mondays and Sports Perspective on Tuesdays for all your latest on Buckeye athletics. Follow at ChalkTalkOSU on Twitter and join the conversation at #CTOSU. Tune in next week for all your Ohio State varsity athletics news, updates, and analysis. I'm Kaylee Rentz for Andrew Todd Smith and Aaron Yerian. Thank you and goodbye.